The first thing I noticed was not the chandelier or the white roses or the folded menu with Layla's name printed in gold. It was the way Trevor kept one hand on the back of her chair, not touching her shoulder, not holding her hand, just claiming the space behind her like he had already bought it. Rain had followed me into the restaurant that night. Late October rain, cold enough to make my knees ache, the kind that turns fallen maple leaves black against the sidewalk. I had parked behind the kitchen because the front lot was full, and by the time I came through the side entrance, my good black slacks were damp at the cuffs. A young hostess looked me over once, not rudely, just quickly, the way people do when they are deciding whether you belong in the dining room or near the mop sink. "Rehearsal dinner for Calder and Monroe," I told her. She checked the screen. "Name? Marion Monroe, bride's mother." That made her stand up a little straighter. She led me past the bar, past a fireplace that smelled faintly of gas and lemon oil, into a private room where everyone was already seated under warm lights. Layla saw me first. My daughter had been beautiful her whole life, but that evening she looked polished in a way that made my chest tighten. Cream dress, pearl clips in her dark hair, lipstick I knew she would forget and chew off before dessert. She stood too fast, her napkin sliding to the floor. "Mom," she called, and for one clean second, all I heard was relief. Then I saw Trevor's mother glance at my tote bag. It was canvas, faded blue, with a little tear near the handle I kept meaning to mend. Inside it was my folded white work apron, a tin of safety pins, thread, a pair of reading glasses, and a small accordion folder where I kept receipts because I still believed paper told the truth better than memory. Trevor rose halfway from his chair. He was handsome, in the careful style of men who know they photograph well. Navy jacket, bright teeth, hair combed back like rain would never dare touch him. "Marion," he greeted me, "glad you made it." Not Mum, not Mrs. Monroe, just Marion, like we had both agreed on something casual. I smiled because smiling had carried me through worse rooms than that one. "Traffic on McKnight was backed up. I am sorry I'm late." "No problem," Layla murmured. She touched my elbow and pulled me toward the empty chair beside her. "You're here. That's what matters." I sat down and the room resumed itself around me. Forks lifted, wine glasses tilted. Someone at the far end laughed too loudly at a story I had missed. I folded my napkin in my lap. My hands looked rough against the white cloth. Cleaner hands always do, no matter how much lotion you use. The skin around my knuckles had little red cracks from bleach water and winter air. Trevor leaned toward his cousin across the corner of the table. He lowered his voice, but private rooms have a cruel way of going quiet at the wrong second. "The stinking cleaner is here." For a moment, nobody moved. Then his cousin made a small sound into his napkin. One woman near the flowers pressed her lips together and looked down. Another man coughed as if laughter had gone down wrong. The words did not hit me loudly. They came in soft like a draft under a door. Stinking cleaner. Not woman. Not mother. Not the person who had sewn Layla's Halloween costumes on a kitchen table, or sat through financial aid forms with a calculator, or driven with one headlight to pick her up from college when she had the flu. Cleaner. And stinking because I had come straight from work and the rain had woken up the smell of disinfectant in my coat. Layla's fork stopped halfway to her plate. I did the old thing first, the thing mothers like me learn when our children have managed to get into rooms we never expected to enter. I looked at her quickly and gave the smallest shake of my head. "Do not. Not here. Not tonight." She stared at me as if she had never seen that look before, though I had been giving it to her since she was a girl. In grocery lines when a cashier talked down to me, at school offices when someone assumed I was there to clean, in the bank when they explained my own account to me slowly. "Let it pass," my face told her. "Keep your place at the table." Trevor smiled, the easy damp smile of a man who thinks charm is a towel you can throw over a spill. "What?" he murmured, looking around. "Come on, I was kidding." The room tried to help him. Chairs shifted. Someone lifted a glass. Mrs. Calder, Trevor's mother, touched the pearls at her throat and gave me a pale little smile. "Long day, Marion?" she offered, as if kindness were a mint passed after a bad meal. Layla set her fork down. The sound was tiny, silver against china, but it carried more cleanly than Trevor's whisper. "Repeat it," she said. Trevor blinked. "Layla, repeat what you called my mother." I reached for her wrist under the table. Not hard, just enough to remind her I was there, and that I could still take a bruise quietly if taking it kept her life smooth. She did not pull away, but she did not soften either. Trevor leaned back, the hand on her chair tightening until his knuckles showed white. "This is not the time. It was the time when you said it." Nobody laughed then. Outside the private room, plates clattered in the kitchen. Garlic and butter drifted under the door. I remember those ordinary smells because the body reaches for ordinary things when the heart is trying not to break in public. Trevor looked at me, not with apology, but with irritation that I had somehow become the problem by hearing him. "Marion knows I respect her," he said. I almost nodded. That is the part I am not proud of. My neck moved before my dignity did, but Layla saw it. She saw her 68-year-old mother preparing to agree with a lie so her daughter could keep a ring. Her right hand went still on the table. Then, very slowly, she touched the diamond on her finger. I had not planned to arrive that way, smelling of vinegar rinse and Mrs. Patterson's orange floor soap. Layla knew that. She knew I had started work before sunrise because Friday clients like their houses perfect before the weekend, and October is when everyone suddenly notices dust on baseboards. She had called me at noon from the bridal boutique with that thin voice she used when she was trying not to panic. "Mum, they pinned the hem wrong. I swear one side is shorter." I was standing in a laundry room in Ross Township folding towels warm from the dryer. "Can you take it back? They want another alteration fee. Trevor says I should just pay it because arguing makes me look difficult." That was Trevor's word for anything a woman did before surrendering. Difficult. I tucked the phone between my ear and shoulder and looked at the row of white towels in front of me. My husband Daniel used to say I could square a towel like I was preparing it for inspection. He had been gone 11 years by then, and still I sometimes folded things the way he liked, just to keep a small conversation with him going. "Bring it to the restaurant early," I told Layla. "I'll fix it in the ladies' room if I have to. You already have work. I have hands. Work can wait 10 minutes. That was how I loved, with 10 minutes stolen from one place and stitched into another, with packed lunches, with shoe coupons, with my own winter coat lasting one more year so Layla could have a graphing calculator, then a laptop, then application fees. Cleaning was not what I dreamed of as a girl. Nobody writes in a yearbook, hopes to scrub strangers' tubs until her shoulder grinds. But after Daniel's heart gave out and the bills kept coming as if grief were not a reason to pause, cleaning was honest work that paid on Fridays. I could do it without asking my daughter to come home from college. I could do it while pretending I was stronger than I was. So I cleaned. Doctors' houses with marble counters. Split levels with dog hair in every corner. Condos where people left coffee rings beside coasters and notes that said, "Please pay special attention to the guest bath," like attention was something I had ever been short on. Layla grew up doing homework at one end of our kitchen table while I clipped coupons at the other. She hated the smell of bleach. She hated that my hands cracked. But when she got older, she also hated when people made assumptions about me, and sometimes I wished she hated it a little less visibly. Pride can burn a child up if you are not careful. The week before the wedding, Trevor's mother hired the service I occasionally worked through for overflow jobs. The name on the booking was E. Calder. I did not connect it to Elaine Calder, because in Pittsburgh half the old families have names that sound like office buildings. The house was in Soakley Heights, set back from the road behind wet black trees and a gate that opened like it was making a judgment. Inside, the guest powder room had wallpaper with tiny blue birds and hand towels nobody was supposed to use. Mrs. Calder walked me through the rooms without recognizing me from the engagement brunch months before. Or maybe she did. That thought did not come until later. She pointed with 2 fingers. "The dinner is tonight, so the downstairs needs to feel fresh. My son's wedding weekend begins tomorrow." "Congratulations," I offered. She gave me a polite nod, already looking past me. Thank you. The bride is sweet, very emotional. Sweet, emotional, words women use when they mean soft enough to shape. I cleaned her powder room, her marble entry, the kitchen where copper pots hung above an island wider than my first apartment. I saw the printed rehearsal dinner schedule on the counter and finally recognized Layla's name. For a second, my rag stopped moving. Then I kept wiping. I told myself it was better not to mention it. Why make Mrs. Calder uncomfortable? Why make Layla feel embarrassed that her mother was there with a bucket and gloves? I had spent years believing love meant making the path smoother, even if I had to crawl along it first. Before I left, Mrs. Calder handed me an envelope with a tip tucked inside. "You did a lovely job," she told me. A lovely job, not cruel words, not warm ones either, just the kind of praise people give a clean window. I put the envelope in my tote beside the apron. Then I drove through rain to the restaurant, stopped in the ladies' room, knelt on a folded towel and fixed Layla's hem while she stood in stocking feet, trying not to cry. "There," I said, biting off the thread because I had forgotten my scissors. "No one will see." Layla looked down at me. "I see." I laughed because I did not know what to do with tenderness when there was no time for it. Well, you are the bride. You are supposed to notice everything. Now, sitting at that table while Trevor's words hung in the air, I understood that my apron had been in the room long before I walked in. It had been in the polished floor at Mrs. Calder's house, in Layla's straightened hem, in the deposit receipt folded in my folder, in every quiet place where I had made myself useful and called it being loved. Layla still had her fingertips on the ring, and I still had my hand near her wrist, asking her without words to let me disappear one more time. Trevor must have thought the silence would save him if he waited long enough. Men like that often trust the room more than the truth. They count on politeness to come walking in with a broom. A waiter appeared with a platter of roasted chicken and stopped just inside the doorway, sensing something wrong without knowing where to put his eyes. The lemon butter smell thickened the air. Nobody reached for bread. Layla's thumb moved once over the ring. "Sweetheart," Mrs. Calder said, drawing the word out like a ribbon she meant to tie around Layla's mouth. "I'm sure Trevor meant nothing by it. He has been under pressure. Weddings bring out unfortunate little jokes." Little jokes. I looked at the centerpiece between us. White roses, green stems visible through a square glass vase. Water clear as if nothing ugly had ever been dropped in it. Trevor exhaled and leaned closer to Layla. "Can we not do this in front of everyone?" "You did it in front of everyone," she answered. His smile hardened at the edges. "I whispered to my cousin. You whispered about my mother." The cousin, a pink-faced man named Brad, lifted both hands. I barely heard him. That was not denial. That was distance. Mrs. Calder gave a soft laugh meant for the table, not for us. "Marion, you understand, don't you? You work in people's homes. I'm sure you hear all sorts of careless comments. One cannot take every awkward phrase personally." There it was, wrapped in manners. A reminder of what I was and where I usually stood. Before I could answer, a woman across from me tilted her head. I think she was Trevor's aunt, silver bracelets stacked up one arm, each one clicking when she moved. "Do you prefer housekeeper?" she asked, as if she were trying to be generous. "Or cleaner? I never know what is considered respectful now." My mouth opened. Years of habit lined up words for me. Cleaner is fine. I have been called worse. Please enjoy your dinner. Layla's chair scraped back an inch. I pressed my napkin flatter. "I own a small cleaning business," I told the aunt, and my voice came out steadier than I felt. "Mostly private clients now. Sometimes I take service calls if someone needs help." "How industrious," Mrs. Calder murmured. Industrious is a word people use when hard-working feels too close to human. Trevor reached for his wine, then seemed to think better of it. "Mum, please." For one foolish breath, I thought he was defending me. Then he turned to Layla. "This is exactly what I meant about sensitivity. Nobody is attacking anyone. Your mother has a respectable job. We all respect work. We all respect work. The table relaxed a fraction. That sentence was built to let people sit back down inside themselves. It sounded broad and fair and empty enough to hide in. Layla did not sit back. "Did you know your mother hired mine this morning?" she asked him. The air changed. Mrs. Calder's bracelets went still. Trevor frowned. "What?" "Through the service app. For your parents' house. Mum cleaned the powder room your uncle complimented before dinner. She cleaned the kitchen where your mother arranged the place cards." A flush rose up Mrs. Calder's neck, but her face stayed composed. "I hire many people. I cannot possibly know everyone's personal connections." She said people, not women, not mothers. "You met my mother at the engagement brunch," Layla replied. "Briefly, months ago, in a different context." Different context meant a dress instead of an apron. I wanted to stand. I wanted to touch Layla's shoulder and whisper that we could go home, that none of this mattered, that people with money often had poor memories when memory would require humility, but my legs would not move. At the far end of the table, an older man cleared his throat. "Well, no harm intended, surely." "Harm does not always need intention," Layla said. That sounded like something she had learned in graduate school, clean and sharp, and I saw Trevor seize on it. "See?" He let out a humorless little breath. "This is what I'm talking about. Everything becomes a statement. We are having dinner with family, Layla, not conducting a seminar." A few faces turned away, grateful to him for making her sound dramatic. I knew that turn. I had seen men use it in kitchens and living rooms for 40 years. First they spill something, then they complain about the size of the stain. Layla looked down at her plate. For a second, I saw the little girl she had been after Daniel's funeral, sitting at our kitchen table with a pencil in her hand, trying to finish math homework because she thought if she behaved normally, I might stop crying in the laundry room. She had always tried so hard to be good in rooms that made her uncertain. Trevor touched her back. Not tenderly. A signal. "Sit," he murmured. Only I was close enough to hear that one. Layla heard it too. Her shoulders changed. She did not raise her voice. That was what frightened me most. Anger would have been easier to dismiss. This was something colder and more awake. "I need air," she said. Trevor's hand dropped from her back. Mrs. Calder reached for her wine. Perhaps a short break is wise. Layla stood, but she did not leave like someone escaping. She placed her napkin beside her plate, looked once at my tote bag near my feet, and then walked toward the hallway. Trevor waited 2 seconds before following. Mrs. Calder waited 3. I sat there with the white roses and the cooling chicken, while every person in that room pretended not to watch me breathe. Then I picked up my tote and went after my daughter. The hallway outside the private room was narrow and warm, lined with framed photographs of the restaurant from years when men wore hats to dinner and women carried gloves. A busboy passed me with a tray of empty glasses, each one holding a little red moon of wine at the bottom. I did not mean to listen. That is what I told myself for a long time afterward. I was only going to the restroom. I was only carrying my tote because my wallet was inside. I was only checking on Layla because mothers are allowed to follow daughters when their faces go pale. But the truth is less flattering. I followed because I was afraid she would do something brave, and I wanted one more chance to stop her. Layla stood near a half-open service door where the hallway turned toward the coat room. Trevor faced her with both hands low at his sides, palms out, like he was calming a nervous animal. "You are making this bigger than it is," he told her. Layla's voice was quiet. "Your family laughed." Brad laughed because it was awkward. People laugh when things are awkward. "You called my mother stinking." He rubbed his forehead. "I said something stupid under my breath. I have apologized in spirit about 6 times. In spirit. I almost laughed. Some apologies are so thin they vanish before they reach the person owed. Mrs. Calder came around the corner then, her heels soft on the carpet. She had brought Layla's cream wrap from the back of her chair, which looked caring until she draped it over Layla's shoulders like she was covering evidence. "Dear, this weekend is emotional," she began. "Everyone understands that, but you must learn which moments deserve public oxygen." Layla stared at her. My mother is not a moment. No one said she was. Trevor did. Mrs. Calder's face changed, not much, but enough. The polite shine went dull. Every family has complications, she said. Mine included. Marriage is not only romance. It is judgment. It is knowing how to arrange a life so private difficulties do not dominate public occasions. Private difficulties. I looked down at my shoes. They were black flats from a discount store, polished that afternoon with a paper towel, because the good brush had disappeared under the sink. One toe had a scuff I had missed. Layla pulled the wrap tighter around herself. Are you calling my mother a private difficulty? Trevor shifted. Layla, don't twist words. Mrs. Calder touched his sleeve, warning him to let her handle it. I am saying, she continued, that love does not require pretending every part of one's history belongs at the center of every room. Your mother has clearly worked hard. That is admirable. But you are stepping into a different kind of life now. There will be photographs, clients, charity boards, holidays. People notice. The service door opened farther behind me. A dishwasher glanced out, saw my face, and quietly let the door swing back until only a strip of light remained. Layla did not move. People notice what? Mrs. Calder gave her a patient smile. Presentation, boundaries, roles. Roles. That one found the bone. Trevor sighed. My mum is trying to help. You get defensive because Marion trained you to feel guilty whenever you move ahead. I gripped the tote handle. For a second, the hallway tilted backward, and I was standing in our old kitchen with Layla at 17, waving an acceptance letter from a private college I had no idea how to pay for. She had watched my face too closely that day. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt and told her we would figure it out. That night I took 2 more clients and cried in the car because joy can be heavy when the bill is attached. Had I trained her to feel guilty? Maybe a little. Not on purpose. Never on purpose. But children read exhaustion the way dogs read weather. They know when love costs more than anyone is saying. Layla looked toward the bend in the hallway. She could not see me, but I felt her searching. I have been embarrassed, she admitted. The words were small, honest enough to hurt. Trevor softened immediately, mistaking confession for surrender. That's all anyone is saying. Nobody wants to erase her. We just need some sense. Mrs. Calder nodded. After tomorrow, you can decide how often she is included and in what settings. A healthy marriage has gates, Layla, not walls. Gates. Gates sound nicer than locks when you are holding the key. Layla's eyes filled, but she did not cry. And tonight? Tonight, Mrs. Calder answered. You go back in, accept that an unfortunate comment landed badly, and let dinner continue. Your mother will understand if she loves you. There it was, the old hook in fresh bait. If she loves you. How many times had I swallowed my own hurt because that sentence lived somewhere under it? If I loved Layla, I would not make school harder. If I loved Layla, I would not show up tired. If I loved Layla, I would not let anyone see the bucket. I stepped back, and my tote brushed the wall. Layla turned then. She saw me standing near the service door with my damp coat and my discount shoes and the bag that held my apron like a folded confession. Her face changed from anger to something worse. Recognition, not of them, of us. Mum, she whispered. I wanted to apologize, though I was not sure for which part. For hearing, for working, for letting her think love meant hiding the work. She walked toward me and held out her hand. Do you have the folder? For most of Layla's life, that little accordion folder had meant small emergencies. A school form due Monday, a rebate receipt, a coupon for tires. Later, college loan papers, insurance cards, a copy of Daniel's death certificate I hated seeing, but kept because offices always seemed to want proof of the worst day of my life. For the wedding, I had used a new one. Pale green plastic with a snap that did not always catch. I kept it in my tote because Layla trusted her phone and I trusted paper, and between the two of us, most disasters could be delayed. I did not hand it to her right away. "Honey," I whispered, "think." She looked at me with wet eyes and a steadiness I recognized from childhood. Layla had been a gentle girl, but when she decided something inside herself, she became very still. At 9, she had sat that way beside Daniel's hospital bed, refusing to leave until the nurse let her say goodnight. At 22, she had sat that way at our kitchen table, signing her first apartment lease, while I pretended not to be frightened of the quiet she would leave behind. "I am thinking," she answered. Trevor came closer. "What folder?" Layla did not look at him. "The one with the receipts." Mrs. Calder's mouth tightened. "Receipts for what?" I opened the tote. My apron sat on top, folded with the straps tucked inside. I moved it aside and took out the folder. The snap popped open before Layla even touched it, as if it too were tired of holding. We walked back into the private room together. That was important. I did not follow her like a child being led. She did not pull me like a cause. We walked side by side past the hostess, past the waiter still holding the cooling chicken, past Trevor's cousin who suddenly found great interest in his water glass. Layla stopped at her place. "I need everyone's attention for 1 minute," she said. Trevor made a sharp sound behind us. "Layla, absolutely not." She opened the folder. The first paper she took out was the restaurant deposit receipt. My name was on it, because 2 months earlier, Trevor's card had been declined while Layla stood at the host stand with embarrassed heat crawling up her neck. He had blamed a fraud hold. Maybe that was true. Maybe it was not. I paid because the room was almost gone, and because Layla's face had collapsed in a way mothers cannot ignore. "My mother paid the deposit for this dinner," Layla told the table. "Trevor was going to reimburse her. He never did. She did not ask twice because she did not want to embarrass me." Trevor's face reddened. "That is private." "So was your whisper." No one moved. Layla set the receipt beside her plate and took out a folded invoice from the cleaning app. Mrs. Calder's address was printed clearly near the top. Under service notes, someone had typed, "Guest powder room, kitchen counters, entry floor, special attention before family event." Mrs. Calder reached for it. Layla moved it out of reach. "This morning," Layla continued, "my mother cleaned Elaine Calder's house. Elaine met my mother at our engagement brunch. She knew who she was, or she chose not to remember because remembering would make the work harder to enjoy." Mrs. Calder's voice went cold. "That is an unfair accusation." "Maybe," Layla replied. "But my mother recognized your powder room wallpaper before dessert." Someone at the far end of the table made a small, breathy noise, not laughter this time. Recognition. Discomfort. The kind that has nowhere polite to sit. Then came the alteration receipt from the boutique. The extra charge circled in blue ink. Layla held it up. The boutique wanted $300 to fix the hem they pinned wrong. My mother fixed it in the restroom 20 minutes before she walked in here. She was on her knees in a restaurant bathroom so I would not trip tomorrow. I looked down. That part shamed me more than the cleaning invoice. Not because sewing was shameful, because Layla had seen me kneeling and had still let me walk into a room where people might treat me like I belonged on the floor. She saw my face and stopped. For a second, she looked like she might fold the papers away and apologize to everyone for making dinner uncomfortable. Trevor saw it too. He stepped into the gap. "Layla, baby, I understand you are upset, but this is not love. This is punishment." Punishment. That word did something to her. She reached into my tote again before I could stop her and took out the apron. It was clean, though the edges were grey from years of washing. White cotton, deep front pocket, 2 long ties. I had worn it in houses where no one knew my name and in our kitchen when frying onions, because old habits do not retire just because you do. Layla laid it across the table beside the ring box. The room went so quiet I could hear rain ticking against the window behind the curtains. "This is not punishment," she said. "This is evidence. And the evidence is that everyone here was comfortable eating food in a room my mother helped pay for, before a wedding dress my mother fixed, after sitting in a house my mother cleaned, while laughing when Trevor called her filthy." Brad stared at his plate. The aunt with the bracelets lowered her hand into her lap. Mrs. Calder's face had lost its gentle arrangement. Trevor looked at me then. Really looked. Maybe for the first time all evening. Not with respect. With calculation. As if he were measuring whether I could be moved aside. I wished, terribly, that I had left the folder at home. Trevor did not reach for the apron. That would have been too honest. Instead, he adjusted his jacket cuffs, one and then the other, buying himself 2 seconds to decide what kind of man the room would let him be. I think, he said carefully, that everyone needs to take a breath. There was the management voice. Not apology, not grief. Management. Mrs. Calder stood. The chair legs made no sound on the carpet, which somehow made the movement feel colder. "Layla," she said, "come with me to the ladies' room." It was phrased like an invitation, but mothers know commands even when they wear perfume. Layla stayed where she was. No. A small word. It seemed to offend Mrs. Calder more than the receipts. This is not how a bride behaves the night before her wedding. Then maybe I should stop behaving like one. Trevor's cousin shifted back from the table as if distance could keep him clean. The aunt with the bracelets murmured something to the man beside her, and he shook his head without lifting his eyes. I saw the danger then, not physical danger, but the social kind that can still leave bruises. Layla had moved from hurt into decision, and every person at that table was about to make her pay for it. I touched her sleeve. "Layla," I whispered. "Enough now." She turned to me, stunned. "Mum." My throat felt dry. "You showed them. They know. Let the dinner finish. Tomorrow you can talk when things are calmer." Even as I spoke, shame crawled up my neck. But I meant it. That is the part I cannot dress up. I had spent so many years making sure Layla got through doors that I could not bear to watch her close one in her own face. Trevor had a good job in medical device sales. His family had money with roots under it. Layla had worked hard, but security still looked different when it came with 2 incomes, health insurance, holidays in houses where the roof never leaked. I thought of her future children, of school districts, of a guest room waiting for me someday if I behaved well enough to be invited. Loneliness can make a woman bargain with her own insult. Layla looked at my hand on her sleeve. "You want me to marry him after this?" I could not answer fast enough. Trevor took the opening. "Marion is being sensible. She knows nobody meant real harm." Mrs. Calder nodded once, relieved to see me returning to my assigned place. "Your mother understands proportion." Proportion. A word for making the wound smaller than the knife. I looked at the apron lying across the table. Its ties hung over the edge near my plate. I remembered tying those straps behind my back in strangers' kitchens before dawn. I remembered Layla at 6, standing on a chair to help me stir pancake batter, wearing that same apron folded around her twice because she wanted to match me. I remembered the first year after Daniel died, when I took a house with 5 bathrooms and came home too tired to remove my shoes before sitting on the kitchen floor. I had not survived all that so my daughter could marry a man who needed me quiet to respect her. But fear is not logical. Fear has its own little office in the heart, and mine had been filing papers for years. "I want you safe," I managed. Layla's face softened and that nearly broke me. "This is not safe," she said. Trevor made a frustrated sound. "For God's sake, Layla, safe? I made a rude comment. I am sorry your mother heard it." Not sorry he said it. Sorry I heard it. The difference landed so plainly that even Brad looked up. Layla turned to Trevor. "Say it to her." His jaw moved. "What?" "Apologize to my mother, directly. No explanation, no pressure, no making me responsible for your embarrassment." Mrs. Calder lifted a hand. "Trevor does not need to perform guilt on command." "No," Layla answered. "He apparently performs contempt without one." A sharp breath went around the table. I tightened my grip on Layla's sleeve, not to stop her now but to steady myself. Trevor looked at me. His eyes were blue, flat with resentment. "Marion," he began, "I apologize if my words came across as disrespectful." If came across. Words like little trapdoors. Layla waited. Trevor spread his hands. "What more do you want?" I wanted to tell him I wanted nothing, that wanting had caused enough trouble. But Layla was not looking at him anymore. She was looking at me. "Mum," she said, "please tell me the truth. If I marry him tomorrow, will you feel welcome in my life?" The room disappeared around that question, not because it was dramatic, because it was practical. Would I feel welcome at Thanksgiving? At a nursery window? In photographs? In a guest room with towels Mrs. Calder approved? Would my apron be allowed through the front door, or only the woman who had learned to hide it? My fingers opened on Layla's sleeve. The answer cost me before I spoke it. "No," I said. One word, barely louder than the rain. Layla closed her eyes. When she opened them, the bride was gone from her face. Layla did not fling the ring. I have heard stories where women throw jewelry into wine glasses or across rooms, and maybe that makes for a cleaner kind of satisfaction. My daughter did no such thing. She twisted the ring once, winced because her finger had swollen a little from nerves and salt, and worked it over her knuckle with the same stubborn patience she used as a child untying wet shoelaces. Trevor watched her hands. Only then did I see panic reach him. "Layla," he said, no polish left in his voice, "do not make a permanent decision in a temporary emotion." She placed the ring on the table beside the apron. Diamond, cotton, two white things under warm lights. One meant to prove she had been chosen. One meant to prove I had been useful. "This is not temporary," she said. "This is the first honest thing that has happened all night." Mrs. Calder sat down slowly. For a second she looked older than she had, and I almost felt sorry for her. Not enough to excuse her, just enough to remember that she too had probably spent years polishing rooms so no one could accuse her of being ordinary. Trevor picked up the ring, then set it back down as if it had burned him. "You are ending our engagement because of one sentence." "No, I am ending it because the sentence found a home here." That was the line that stopped the room. Not because it was loud, because everyone at that table knew whether the sentence had found a home in them. The waiter still stood near the door with the platter. Layla turned to him and her voice changed to something gentle. "I'm sorry. Could you please pause service for our table?" He looked grateful for an instruction he could follow. "Of course," Trevor pushed back from the table. "This is humiliating." Layla looked at him then, really looked, as if she were memorizing the man she had almost married so she would not reinvent him later in Kinder Colours. "Yes," she answered. "It is." He stepped closer. "Think about tomorrow. Think about the venue. Think about the people flying in. Think about how ridiculous this will sound when we explain it." There it was again. Not grief over losing her. Logistics. Optics. The bill. I knew bills. Bills were honest bullies. They came in envelopes and did not pretend to love you. Layla opened her phone with fingers that shook. "I am thinking about it." "What are you doing?" "Calling the venue coordinator." Mrs. Calder's composure cracked. "Absolutely not. Deposits are non-refundable at this stage. The florist alone will be a nightmare." Layla looked at her. "Then let it be a nightmare." I reached for the back of a chair because my legs felt loose. "Honey, maybe we can go home first. Sleep." She shook her head. "If I sleep, I will wake up with everyone telling me to be reasonable. I know myself. I know him. I know you. We will all try to put the table back together." The call connected. She walked toward the vestibule just outside the private room, where a row of black umbrellas stood in a brass holder. I followed because I could not let her stand alone, though part of me was still begging God to rewind the evening before the first whisper. "This is Layla Monroe," she told the coordinator. "Bride for tomorrow at 6. I need to cancel." "Yes, I understand. No emergency with the venue. I am safe. I just cannot get married." I watched her listen. Her free hand found mine. The coordinator must have explained costs, because Layla closed her eyes. "I understand. Keep whatever the contract says you keep. Please donate the flowers if there is a way. If not, I understand that too." Practical grief. That was what I heard in her voice. Trevor came into the vestibule. "Do you have any idea what this makes me look like?" Layla ended the call before answering. "It makes you look unmarried." Not a joke, not a clapback. A fact laid down like a folded sheet. His face changed. Anger, then injury, then something almost boyish and ugly. "Your mother did this." Layla squeezed my hand hard. For 1 second, I saw the story he would tell. The cleaning lady mother poisoned her daughter. The poor widow could not stand to see her child rise. The whole failed wedding would become my odor, my apron, my fault. That was the cost arriving early. Layla saw it too. "No," she said. "My mother tried to save you. That is the worst part." Trevor had no answer for that. We went back only to collect our things. I put the receipts into the folder, but Layla picked up the apron herself. She folded it carefully, not hiding it, simply caring for it. Then she slipped it into my tote and handed me my coat. Nobody at the table stood. Mrs. Calder watched us with her mouth pressed into a thin line, one hand resting near the untouched ring. Brad stared into his wine. The aunt's bracelets lay silent against the tablecloth. At the door, I turned by habit toward the hallway I had used coming in, the one leading past the kitchen. Layla touched my elbow. "Front door, Mom." So we walked out through the dining room, past couples eating pasta, past a birthday table with a candle burning blue at the tip, past the hostess who now understood exactly who I was and could not decide where to look. Outside, rain silvered the pavement. Layla had no umbrella, neither did I. We stood under the awning for a breath, 2 women with one ruined wedding between us and one white apron folded in a bag. Then my daughter stepped into the rain with me. At my house, the kitchen light was still on because I had left in a hurry. The room looked exactly as it had that afternoon, and entirely different. 2 mugs in the dish rack, a stack of grocery flyers on the table, Daniel's old Steelers magnet holding a plumber's coupon to the refrigerator. Rain tapped the window above the sink with steady little fingers. Layla stood in the middle of the linoleum and stared at the table where she had done homework. Rolled cookie dough, cried over chemistry, filled out college essays, and once announced at 13 that she was never going to marry because marriage seemed like mostly laundry and sighing. Her phone would not stop buzzing. Mine started too, slower but meaner somehow. My sister Ruth first, then a cousin, then a number I did not know. Family news travels faster when shame can ride along. Layla turned both phones face down on the counter. "I ruined everything," she said. I took off my damp coat and hung it on the chair by the door because the hook had been loose for years and I had never fixed it. "No. Mum, the wedding was tomorrow. People flew in. You heard the coordinator. The money is gone. Money goes." That was not enough, and we both knew it. She laughed once without humour and wiped her cheeks with the heel of her hand. "Easy for you to say. You spent your whole life making sure money did not go." The words landed hard because they were true. I filled the kettle because my hands needed a job. The burner clicked 3 times before the flame caught. Blue fire under a dented pot. Ordinary mercy. Layla sat at the table and pulled the pearl clips from her hair one by one, placing them in a little row like teeth. "I asked you to clean that house," she said. I turned. "No, you did not." "I gave Mrs. Calder's number to the service app when she complained her regular woman cancelled. I saw the booking name and I suspected it was her, but I told myself you probably would not take it. Then when you did, I told myself it was fine because work is work, and you always say work is work." The kettle began to tremble. "Work is work," I answered. "That is not the same as letting her hire you and then sit across from you like you were furniture." I took 2 tea bags from the tin Daniel bought me our last Christmas together. Earl Grey for Layla. Plain black for me. I did not want tea. I wanted to go back to the restaurant and disappear into the wallpaper before any of this could become permanent. "I could have told her no," I said. "You should not have had to. People should not have to do many things. They still do them." Layla looked up then, angry through tears. "Do not make this wise, please. I cannot stand it if you make this wise." So I stopped moving. The kettle screamed until I turned off the burner. Steam fogged the cabinet door. "All right," I said. "Then I will make it plain." I was embarrassed too. She went still. I leaned both hands on the counter. My knuckles looked redder under the fluorescent light. Not of the work, not exactly. I was embarrassed that I still needed it. Embarrassed that you were marrying into a family where my clients' kitchens looked like their mudrooms. Embarrassed that I wanted them to like me. Embarrassed that I was willing to be useful if useful was the only way they would let me stay near you. Layla covered her mouth. The house settled around us. Old pipes clicked. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the block, a car hissed past on wet pavement. "Mom," she whispered. "And tonight," I continued, because if I stopped, I might never open that door again. When he said what he said, I wanted you to ignore it. I wanted my own daughter to swallow my humiliation because I was scared. Not noble. Scared. She cried then, not loudly. Layla had never been a loud crier. Her shoulders folded inward like she was trying to take up less room, the same way I had at the dinner table. I came around and sat across from her. "I would have married him," she admitted. "If you had said yes when I asked whether you would feel welcome, I think I would have married him and hated myself later." That confession hurt worse than I expected. Not because she blamed me, because I understood how close we had both come to choosing comfort over truth. My phone buzzed again. Ruth's name lit the screen. I answered before I could lose courage. "Marion, what in heaven's name happened? Trevor's aunt called Donna and Donna called me. People are saying Layla had some kind of episode." Layla looked at me. The old me would have softened it, protected everyone, made a little joke about wedding nerves and too much wine. I looked at the apron in my tote, still damp at one corner from the rain. "Layla did not have an episode," I told my sister. "Trevor insulted me. His family defended it. Layla ended the engagement." A pause. "Over an insult?" I closed my eyes. "No," I said. "Over a future." After I hung up, Layla reached across the table and took my hand. Not like a daughter asking to be saved, like a woman telling another woman the pretending was over. The next morning, Layla should have been having her hair done by a woman named Patrice at a salon with brick walls and fiddle leaf figs. Instead, she sat at my kitchen table in sweatpants, calling vendors. She made a list on the back of an envelope because she could not find her wedding planner binder. And I did not tell her I had seen it in her car under a box of programs. Some objects need time before anyone touches them again. Florist, photographer, venue, band, cake. Each word was a little funeral. I cooked oatmeal neither of us ate. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the trees still dripped steadily onto the gutters. My neighbour, Mr. Alvarez, rolled his trash cans back from the curb and lifted one hand when he saw me through the window. I lifted mine back. Ordinary life has terrible manners. It keeps going while your heart is standing still. By noon, Trevor had left 3 messages. Layla played none of them. His texts came in paragraphs at first, then sentences, then single lines. "You are making a mistake. Please call me." My mother is devastated. That last one made Layla set the phone down very carefully. "I am not going to answer today," she said. "Good." She looked surprised. I was a little surprised too. After lunch, we drove to her apartment to collect the dress. It hung on the bedroom door in its garment bag, ivory, and still as a sleeping person. Layla stood in front of it for a long time. "I loved it," she murmured. "I know. That makes me feel stupid." Loving pretty things does not make you stupid. Marrying ugly behavior because it comes wrapped in pretty things might have. She turned and gave me a look. "Mum, too much?" "A little, but fair." We both smiled, not because anything was funny, but because a small crack of air had opened in the room. The bridal shop would not take the dress back. The florist donated some arrangements to a nursing home because Layla asked through tears, and the woman on the phone had a mother there. The cake could not be cancelled, so on Sunday we picked up 3 white tiers boxed separately and drove them to St. Agnes Community Kitchen, where I had once helped with Thanksgiving meals after Daniel died. The kitchen was in the basement of an old church building, though the program was not strictly church anymore. Anyone could come. Retired men with careful combs, women with grocery carts, young mothers who looked as tired as I remembered being. The room smelled like coffee Syrup, steam, and old tile warmed by people. Nadine Keller ran the Saturday breakfast there. She had owned a diner in Bellevue for 32 years and could crack eggs with one hand while correcting a city councilman with the other. When she saw me carrying cake boxes through the side door, she wiped her hands on a red towel. "Marion Monroe," she called. "You bringing dessert to breakfast or trouble to my kitchen?" "Both, maybe." She saw Layla behind me and softened without making a show of it. "Well, set both on the counter. We take donations in all forms." That was the first place all weekend where nobody asked for the story before offering us a job. Layla sliced wedding cake with a plastic knife while I poured coffee. The first piece went to a man named Eddie, who wore a pirate's cap and announced that heartbreak tasted better with buttercream. Layla laughed for real, then covered her face because laughing felt disloyal to the ruin. Nadine noticed the apron in my tote. "You working or visiting?" I looked down. The white apron was clean. I had washed it twice, not because it was dirty, but because I kept thinking I could rinse the restaurant out of it. "Visiting," I started. Layla slid another piece of cake onto a paper plate. She did not correct me. That mattered. She let me choose. I looked around the kitchen. A young volunteer was burning toast. Eddie had syrup on his sleeve. Nadine was arguing with the coffee urn. No one here needed me hidden, so they could respect themselves. "Actually," I said, "if you need help with dishes, I know my way around a sink." Nadine tossed me a towel. "Everybody in this room knows their way around a sink. Question is whether you can keep up." I tied the apron around my waist. My hands shook once at the knot. Layla saw, but she did not rush over to steady me. She stayed at the counter cutting cake, giving me the dignity of my own small act. For 3 hours we worked. Not because work erased shame. Work had never been the shame. Hiding it had done the damage. When we left, Nadine called after us. "Breakfast next Saturday starts at 7. If you come late, I give your good spatula to Eddie." "I do not have a good spatula here," I answered. "Then bring one." In the car, Layla leaned her head back against the seat. "Do you want to go back?" she asked. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel. The skin was still cracked, the nails still short. Nothing about them had changed. And still, everything had. "Yes," I said. "But next week, we are not bringing wedding cake." By January, most people had stopped asking about the wedding. That is one mercy of ordinary time. It does not heal everything, no matter what people claim, but it does make gossip hungry for fresher meat. Layla returned the pearl clips to the friend who had lent them. She sold the candle holders online to a woman planning a 50th anniversary party. The dress stayed in its bag in my spare room until one cold afternoon when she carried it to a consignment shop in Squirrel Hill and came back with red eyes and a receipt, folded into fourths. "It's sold on commission if anyone buys it," she told me. "Someone will. I hope she has a better day in it." That was the closest she came to blessing the dress, and it was enough. Trevor sent one message through a mutual friend after New Year's. Not directly. Men like him prefer witnesses when they are trying to look humbled. He hoped Layla would not let one dinner define him. Layla read the message while standing in my kitchen, wearing jeans tucked into snow boots, her hair twisted up with a pencil because she had stopped performing neatness on weekends. She did not answer right away. For 3 days, the message sat there like a covered dish nobody wanted to open. Then she wrote back one line. "It did not define you. It revealed the table you were comfortable sitting at." She showed it to me before sending, not for permission, I think, but because truth had become something we tried to hold in the light together. I did not clap. I did not tell her I was proud in the big voice people use when they want pain to become a parade. I squeezed her shoulder once and went back to packing the car for Saturday breakfast. By then, we had a routine. I brought my good spatula because Nadine had made good on her threat and given the old one to Eddie, who used it mostly to point at things while claiming he was supervising. Layla brought oranges from the discount grocery and cut them into wedges for the children who came in with their grandparents. I handled coffee, pancakes, and sometimes the big sink if the volunteer schedule fell apart. The apron hung on a peg by the kitchen door now. Not my apron exactly. Nadine had put up 3 pegs and written names above them on masking tape. Mine said Marion in black marker, slightly crooked. Under it hung the white apron, washed thin, tied loose so I could slip into it without fuss. The first time I left it there, I sat in my car afterward and cried so hard I fogged the windshield. Layla did not ask why. She scraped ice off the passenger side window and waited. On the last Saturday of January, snow came down in soft, stubborn flakes that made the church steps slick. Layla and I arrived at 6:30. The kitchen was already warm. Nadine had the griddle heating. Eddie was filling sugar jars badly. And a little boy in a dinosaur coat was asleep with his head on his grandmother's lap near the radiator. I hung my coat beside Layla's on the rack. 2 coats, same peg. No guest room test. No seating arrangement. No family gate. I tied on my apron. A woman near the coffee urn turned and looked at me closely. She was maybe 40, tired around the mouth with scrubs under her winter coat. "Mrs. Monroe?" she asked. I recognized her after a second. Her name was Tessa. I cleaned her mother's condo once a month after the hip surgery. Old embarrassment rose by reflex, quick as a match. Before I could decide whether to explain myself, Tessa smiled. "Mom loves the way you fold her blankets," she said. "She says you make the place feel like she is not failing at being home." The words entered me quietly. Not praise for a clean sink. Not surprise that I existed outside a service hour. Something else. "Your mother is doing better than she thinks," I answered. "She says the same about you." Tessa took her coffee and went back to the table by the radiator. Layla had heard. She kept slicing oranges, but her chin trembled once. Nadine slapped a bowl of batter onto the counter. "If everybody is done making Marion famous, I have pancakes dying of loneliness over here." So I worked. I poured circles of batter onto the griddle and watched the bubbles rise. I turned each pancake when the edges set, not before. There is an art to waiting without abandoning the thing. I had learned that late, but I had learned it. At 8, the room filled. Wet boots squeaked on tile. Coffee steamed. Children argued over syrup. Eddie told the same joke 3 times and got 3 different laughs, because kindness is sometimes repetition with a fresh face. Layla carried plates to a table where an older woman sat alone, her hands wrapped around a mug. When Layla came back, she stopped beside me. "You okay?" she murmured. I looked at the apron tied around my waist, at the small grease stain already blooming near the pocket, at my daughter's coat hanging beside mine. Through the high basement window, snow moved past the glass like torn paper. The world above us was cold, but this room smelled of coffee and pancakes and people being fed without anyone needing to be ashamed of who stirred the batter. "Yes," I told her. And I meant it in the practical way, which is the only way I fully trust. When breakfast ended, Layla reached for my apron as if to help untie it. Then she stopped herself. I untied it on my own, folded it once, and hung it back on the peg marked Marion. Next to it, Layla hung her scarf. No ring flashed on her hand. No chandelier shone above us. No one turned their laughter into silence because there was nothing cruel to silence. There was only the empty griddle cooling, the coats dripping by the door, and my clean white apron waiting openly for next Saturday.